Hello there. Welcome to A Certain Point of View. This week we have Jessica joining us. Hey, Jessica, how are you? You're muted.
I mean, leave it to me to do something. It has to
I
happen.
feel like someone has to do it every week. It's all good. And we also have joining us today, special guest. I'm really excited about this. We got Darth Choco here. What's up, man?
Hello. That's why I love this mic. Is when you mute,
Oh,
light turns off. You always know when it's muted.
oh, that's amazing.
I need that in my life. I've been borrowing one of my friend's mics this entire time. So when I go to actually purchase one for myself, it's a good thing to remember.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing actually. All right, we already got someone in the chat calling us losers. So let's see who that is. Facebook user. Hold on. Let me do this over here. All right. All right. Oh, it's Scott Fagley. What's up, dude? How are you? Welcome, my
Hey,
friend.
Scott.
Come on. Guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. As you arrive into the show, please let us know you're here in the chat. We want to interact with you. We will definitely interact with the chat at the beginning of the show here for a while, but once we start the main discussion, we'll stop that for a while and then come back to it at the end. But please make sure that while we're having our main conversation, leave your comments as what we're talking about. And just leave the context so I know what you're referring to. And because as we go on, I will be just selecting and marking. So I go back and make sure I read the ones that apply. So at the very end of the show. So with that being said, Choco, man, what's up? This is the first time you've been on our show. I had the honor of being on your show. I guess it was about a month ago, maybe a little more than that. But we had a great sequel trilogy discussion, and I had an absolute blast. You have a great show, great YouTube channel. I know you're on TikTok and all that stuff. But to anybody in the chat and listening to the show, who are you? What do you do? And what is your Star Wars story?
Ooh, yeah. So I'm Darth Choco. Darth Choco on YouTube. I'm really trying to grow that. TikTok is my primary platform. And I like Star Wars. I mean, I'm a big geek. I love Marvel. I love DC, and I go off on wild tangents. Right now, I'm trying to start a lively debate on what the best sequel to any film of all time is. I'm saying number one, Terminator 2. Number two, Shrek 2. And I'm talking about movies that understood the assignment,
Oh my goodness.
took the original movie and boosted it in all ways. How to Train Your Dragon 2 is also it's
Oh,
slept on.
dude, so good.
But yeah, I talk about mostly Star Wars. My Star Wars story is I've always been a huge fan. I came into the fandom when the special editions were coming out, and just fell in love with it. And then the prequels came out, and I swear to God, I felt like I was the only person on the planet that enjoyed them. Um, and so that kind of soured me a little bit. So I was like, I was a closet nerd for a while, just like enjoying and binging all these books, but really big into the expanded universe, and and all of the. Then I go to Star Wars Celebration 2015 when they released the trailer for Force Awakens and stuff like that.
My
Amazing,
gosh, so
amazing.
jealous.
That was the best convention I've ever been to, and like yeah, it's like sold. So so I've been back into it. Been loving all the stuff that's coming out, and yeah, just enjoying my time in the fandom. I started making content because I after being kind of pushed out during the prequel era, I just it makes me sick to see that happen to other people. And
Yep.
so my goal was to kind of like make a buffer or like safe space to like just enjoy stuff because that's a thing we can enjoy things.
Wait, what? Enjoy? Star
You
Wars?
can enjoy and not be a fake fan. OMG.
Everyone is shills nowadays. You enjoy
Yeah.
that? Chill.
I feel like we've all been called fake fans like once a week. At least once a week.
Yeah, but it's funny because I feel like I exist in this weird space because I've read so many expanded universe books and comics and all this. Like my favorite Star Wars character of all time is Jaina Solo. I mean, Jaina Solo is a queen and amazing. And so like I get called a fake fan and like you need to like look up this and I'm like, no, I've read that. And that's not what happens in it. Like, did you read it? No? You read an article on Wikipedia? Gotcha. Yeah.
That's a huge blind spot for me because I'm similar to you. I grew up as a special edition child. I became a fan through those movies. I did grow up watching the prequels a lot. But I actually, oh, what's up? But I actually did end up
Aw.
going through a particularly negative phase. I am unfortunately one of the ones that realized that the prequels were lame once I got to be like older and too cool for them, and so unfortunately I went through that phase for a while. I still think there's some issues. In fact, we'll talk about a little bit tonight, maybe, possibly. But I really appreciate them a lot more and even love certain points of them and now. But the EU is a complete total blind spot for me. I am complete and honestly, I've told you this before. Books in general, Star Wars books in general, are a blind spot for me. I did start. What was the book? What was the one I started? I just started the oh no, I'm forgetting the High Republic, the Claudia Gray one, not the newest one that she did.
Into the Dark.
Yeah, Into the Dark. I just started that one not long ago, and so I'm working on it. But it is a blind spot for me, and so it's cool to have someone in here that grew up on the original trilogy, grew up loving the prequels, loves the sequels, and also is an EU aficionado. And so that's pretty rare, man. It's really cool to have that. So let's do this really quick before we guys, in case you didn't know, in case you couldn't read the thing before we started, we are going to be talking about our top moment from each of our bottom 3 favorite Star Wars live action movies. And it is, I feel like it's a fun exercise to do, and it's a healthy exercise for us to do every now and then, because it kind of gets us thinking about, instead of just always thinking about like, this is my Star Wars, this is the best Star Wars for me, we get to think about instead like, okay, this isn't my cup of tea, but that part in that thing is really cool. And I just think it's a healthy place for us to get to when we can do that, even if you don't have to like all the Star Wars movies, but you can at least appreciate the best parts of them. And I think it's a healthy place for us to be. I think it's a healthy exercise for us to do. So we're going to do a whole episode devoted to it. But before we do that, we have to talk about something that dropped this week, right?
Yeah.
A little something dropped this week, and I already got to talk about it I had Lore Seeker on the other day, and really cool dude, and we got to talk and just nerd out about it. But I want to hear, spoiler alert, I love the trailer. Like, I've watched it literally 30 times. I want to hear from Jessica, because we haven't really gotten to talk much about it, and then I want to hear from Choco. Jess, what were your thoughts and your biggest takeaways from the Obi-Wan trailer? And also in the live chat, let us know your thoughts on the teaser.
Man, I just didn't even know if it was going to happen. I remember there was a period of time where I said, I will be fine if we don't get a trailer. Like, if we go into this show knowing nothing, like, what would that be like? That could be really fun. But I am glad that we got one now that we have it. It is so amazing, and I'm just so ready for this show. I can't even tell you like a part that is my favorite because it's all just so good. It made me so emotional. Um, I had no words for a while. I'm just really excited. I know there are some criticisms with some stuff, and I think some of it is it's fair, very fair. But overall, I'm just so excited about the show, and I cannot wait for it to happen. I'm almost sad that it's getting so close because then that means it's going to be over.
I know it's like the buildup is the
Yeah.
buildup has been going on for years, and it's finally going to be over soon.
I mean, I still remember being in Walmart and screaming out loud, like during the pandemic with a mask on because someone texted me that Hayden was coming back. And I was like, oh my gosh. And thank goodness there was no one around me, but it was so funny.
I wish I could have seen that actually.
I know.
I need to go
I think
find
I
the
texted
security
you guys
footage.
not too long after that and was like, oh my gosh, I just screamed in Walmart.
You did. I remember that. Yeah, I'm super excited about that. Jess, so you mentioned the criticism. Go ahead. Let's just talk about it. What did you what was your
was gonna s-
criticism? Let's
I was
just
gonna
get it out in
say,
the
like,
open.
when you screamed in Walmart, people like early in the pandemic, people were probably like, "Oh, she found toilet paper."
Yeah, I think I was in like some really random. It was around Halloween, wasn't it? I think.
I
wanna say
honestly can't remember.
Maybe it
Time-
was
time is
because
a
I
blur.
feel like
Time
I was
is a
in
complete blur
some
right now.
random like section like that, so no one was around me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, time is
I
a
wish it
total
was
blur
about
right now,
toilet
so I don't
paper. That
remember.
would be exciting. That was a crazy time we've lived in.
Was.
Yeah, 2 years later. I don't know, just like everything about the Grand Inquisitor and what he looks like.
Mhm.
I'm not somebody that likes to complain about things. Like I'm a very easygoing.
You're the biggest hater I know.
I love I love every Star Wars movie, genuinely. I do. But I mean, to be honest, it is something that does disappoint me a little bit, just especially like if you watched Rebels, like it does take away the look a little bit, and we've seen um that like type of alien before, and I don't know, like I'm sure they have a reason, and it's not something I'm gonna nitpick and I'm gonna get hung over at all. Like it is not something I'm gonna get hung up on. But with everything, like how everything has advanced so much, you think that they could get something to look a little bit more similar. And I know it's not that big of a deal. And again, it doesn't change my
and here's
excitement for the show or anything, but it is a little sad to me that they couldn't make it a little bit. I mean, at least make his eyes maybe a little bit more similar. I don't know. But
yeah.
that's just me.
And Choco, I'm excited to get your thoughts on this, but for me, I don't really care. I was like, I texted or I posted actually. I was just like, everybody's feeling really strongly one way or another about this, and I'm just like, I don't care. I get it. I get why you care. I get why other people are like super passionate the other way. For me, I have just gotten to the point where I never will criticize the way something looks until I see it in the context of the show. I'm done with, people criticize the Riddler and his costume for the Batman, and before they saw it, and when you see the movie, it's like, oh, man, it's so good. It's perfect. People criticize the Batmobile. When that thing revs up in the movie, you're not criticizing anymore. Let me tell you, it's just one of those things. You don't criticize. I don't criticize things until I see it in the context. I do understand, and specifically just for you, you said earlier, you don't really you're not a super critical person with Star Wars. You love so much of it. But there's been a couple of times I've heard you criticize something, and it usually has to do with this stuff. I remember when you saw Ahsoka for the first time live action, you didn't love the look of the Leku or whatever they're called. You didn't love the way those looked. You were kind of critical of that. I don't know how you ended up where you ended up on that. But
I mean, again, it's not something I love. I would have loved for it to be a little bit more consistent. I mean, it has to do with stuff that I even do just for work. Like
Mhm.
I like things to be continually the same. Like
Mm-hmm.
I look for when I'm watching a show, when I'm watching a movie, when I'm doing anything, there has to be somewhat of there. It has to be similar. It has to flow. And so that is a little hard for me when I'm like visualizing something and it's like that off. It does kind of like bother me a little bit just because I'm like, okay, it's not. I'm trying to think of the word. It's like there's even a job for it in like movies where they look to see to make sure that after that shot, like you're in the same spot and everything's arranged the same way and all of that sort of thing. And so I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to be like, they have all this money and they couldn't do that because I mean, that has to go to so many other different things. This isn't going to be the top priority. I know it's not going to be. But the aesthetic, if it's not exactly the same, I mean, it does make me a little bummed, but I'm not going to be so upset about it that I'm like, Disney ruined this again, or whatever, like that's just stupid.
Right. Yeah. And for me, it all comes down to like, I told someone this earlier. I was like, my thing is, if the performance is amazing and the story is amazing, no one's going to care about the size of the guy's head. I'm like, no one's going to care. If the performance is amazing, everyone's going to forget about the head size. That's just my opinion. I think that's what's going to happen.
I just do want Star Wars to be authentic. And I think that does kind of play into it too. You want something, when you think of a brand, just in general of clothing, and you think of even like a designer, they have their aesthetic that it's going to flow no matter if it's this collection to the next collection to whatever. It's going to be pretty continuous. Now, I get it if you're going to different mediums, like if say an artist is changing from sculpture to a painting or whatever, it is going to be different. So I get that it's going to be different animation versus live action, and that's what's understandable about Ahsoka, to get the action shots that we want and everything like that, to be overly CGI. It was better for it to be that, and I'm sure that thing is so heavy. Like I get that. And so maybe he couldn't get facial movement as well if he had a huge piece on his head.
Yeah, because remember in the prequels we saw that race, but they just literally walked like this.
Yeah, and so maybe it affected his skill as an actor to portray that part. Yeah. Like you said, you've got to wait till it's seen. Do I wish maybe they could have done something? Maybe, but again, at the end of the day, it's not like something that I'm just...
I think that's fair and reasonable.
Perturbed over,
Yeah, absolutely. Choco, what do you think about all this, man? I know it's been like the hot topic on Twitter lately, so.
Yeah, I made a video on it myself, and do I think it looks funky? Yeah, it does. Do I care? No, not at all. I don't know. I feel like. Agree. I feel like you have this like beautiful meal prepared for you, and you're like, oh, I'm not gonna eat this. The plating is not up to par. And you're like, eat the damn food. Like, what the hell? Yeah, that's how I feel about it. And also,
they put the fork on the wrong side of my plate. I can't eat this.
There's certain stuff that, and by the way, knowing how much money and effort they put into this stuff, I feel very confident that they had they did different screen tests to find out what would be the best, what would look the best. Like the character, like for instance, the tattoo on his head is extremely pronounced in animation. It's very, very red, and that would look terrible in live action. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes, we've seen Powans before in Revenge of the Sith with our guy Tion Medon, and that guy looks disgusting. A, B, I feel like it's one of those things where like they put you in the costume and they're like, okay, you can't turn your head, you can't walk faster than this speed, like, or all of this falls apart. Like the Grand Inquisitor.
Sorry, it just made me think of Kim K and that whole thing she just wore and she couldn't walk at Fashion Week. That's all over Twitter. I'm sure y'all have seen it.
I haven't. I guess I
I'm
don't
on a
go into that
slightly
corner of
different
Twitter.
side of Twitter.
We're in a little different space.
Sorry, I'm on all of them. I just that blew up on something, and I was like, "This is great!" Like this
I'm
Balenciaga
not
thing. They
opposed
like
to it.
wrapped her in caution tape, and then she couldn't walk. So
Well, no, I mean, like, Mariah Carey used to wear like the mermaid cut, and then they'd have to
Yes.
carry her to the
yes,
so,
but that's so on brand for Mariah Carey. I love it. Like, carry me. I want to wear this
exactly.
dress.
But you know who it's off brand for? The Grand
Inquisitors.
Inquisitor. So, you know, I think of like the Grand Inquisitors. That species head is taller and skinnier than a human's head. So like I feel like if you had to make it longer, you would also because like their mouth would be lower, their eyes would still be high. Like I can't truly think of a way that it would look good. I truly can't. Like you can give them a cone head, but I think that would look equally bad.
Mhm.
You know, so
Yeah.
I don't know. Also, I think of like Grief Karga on the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Supposed to be an alien originally, and
That's right. I forgot about
and-
this.
no, but he was like, sure, I'll be an alien, just knowing like they're not going to put me in a mask because you're going to lose so much of the facial expressions and all this stuff, and I want that acting performance, and so if having him look more accurate, so I used to be like one of those not lame, but like I was into tuner cars and stuff like that, and so there's the thought like, listen, it could be fast, it could be reliable, or it could be cheap. Like you can pick two of those, but you can't have all three. That's not possible. And I feel like this is much the same thing. Like it could be 1-to-1, you know, ratio, but you're going to miss out on some facial expressions and acting,
Mhm.
and some stunts are going to be weird or completely CG,
Mhm.
or it could not look perfect, but all of that stuff is better. And like for me, it's a trade-off I'm willing. Or we could wait 10 more years until technology is better. Like no, we're not doing that. So
Yeah,
I'm okay with it myself.
And then there's this whole thing where it's like people will post a photo of how a fan fixed it and the fan did it better than Disney. I'm like, this is just like a picture, right? They didn't actually.
It's just a Photoshop picture.
It's a Photoshop.
Not someone
You're
moving
not-
around.
You're not actually fixing the problem. You just built on what they built. Right? And it's only for a picture. It's not moving. I hate that argument. I think it's so ridiculous. And it happened during the Cad Bane stuff too. And by the way, the stuff that fan made was really great. Like the remake or whatever. It looked amazing. But it was the same situation. I keep wondering, like,
and he even reached out and was like, "Oh no, I really liked what they did on the show."
Yeah, exactly. He had no intent of like
fixing anything.
Yeah, exactly. So I really appreciated what he did because it did look good, and he didn't do it with the an intent to fix it. He just was doing it because he's an artist and he's good at what he does. But again, in that situation, I was like, yeah, but the one that they used looked really great, and it makes sense why it looks different. And oh my gosh, I need to keep blocking this. We got some crazy bots today. Woo. So anyway, we don't need to go down that rabbit hole anymore. I did want to have that discussion because I figured it'd be fun. And it was.
Good. I'm like, was it fun? Was it okay?
I thought it was fun. I thought it was great. So, okay, let's do this. Let's talk about, guys, for the main conversation in the chat, we're going to be talking about our favorite moment from each of our bottom 3 ranked Star Wars movies. And I got to say, just as a disclaimer, I don't hate any Star Wars movie. Even my lowest Star Wars movie, which I have a ton of issues with, I don't hate. I actually I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I don't actively like it. I don't hate it. Hate is a strong word, and it leads to the dark side, Jessica.
That's what I said earlier. Don't take
I know,
that from
and you were
me.
right. You were right.
As I wear
And-
my like Darth Vader Lord of the Sith.
but
It's also one of the classic pop punk songs from my era. Hate is a strong word, but I
Oh,
really,
yeah.
really, really don't like you.
Yep.
Well, there you go. I don't know that one. But I will say, there is also like the nature of ranking Star Wars movies for me is, so we're talking about just the live action movies, and so there's 11 of those, right? So right, I think there's 11, and so my problem is that number 6 through 9 can literally be interchangeable on any given day, and so the first one I'm going to talk about is a movie that I not only like really enjoy. It's a movie I love. Like I love 9 through the top, the rest of them. But so it's going to be really interesting. But I just thought it'd be fun. I think this is going to be a fun time. And Jessica has a truly interesting ranking, and I'm really excited to get into that too.
I also have a hot take.
Ooh, I like hot takes.
We'll see.
I know.
We'll
I
see.
tried to be a little different. I'm like, what can I pull out of these movies? Because I genuinely do love them all. Like, what can I
Yeah.
pull out that maybe somebody didn't think was a great moment? But if you talk about it, it's actually a great moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm really excited. I'm really excited to talk about this. And so let's get into it. Choco, we're gonna start with you, man. So we're starting with our, I guess the highest ranked of the bottom 3. So technically ranked number 9 on your ranking, I suppose. What is your favorite moment from that movie?
Woo! All right.
And what movie is it?
So we're jumping, right into my hot take.
Oh, okay.
Oh, nice. I'm ready for it.
I'm so ready.
Yeah. So one film that's pretty low on my list. It used to be dead last, and it jumped up a couple spots. Is Rogue One.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna say something like Empire.
Oh no. Okay. Normally people get mad and they're like, "What? You didn't like that?" That's one of the ones where I left the theater feeling kind of empty.
Oh.
But upon rewatches and the biggest one was on in my podcast, The High Ground, we did a whole episode on this film. So I had guests who this is their favorite film, and like they filled me in on all of this stuff, and I got to really appreciate how hopeless and listless Jyn Erso was as a character at the beginning of the film. There wasn't any fight in her, not really, or the fight was more or less like, listen, I've just been a soldier forever, like I don't really. The cause is interchangeable. Like we're gonna have to fight, and how through the course of that movie she gives that compelling speech of like what chance do we have, and then understanding that this was a person that was raised by Saw Gerrera, that's taking this stance and is partnering up with Mon Mothma, and her journey through the film does actually like mean a lot to me, and it really started to and Andor as well, seeing where he started to willing to kill for the cause, to someone that's willing to die for it, and that growth arc I think was really cool.
That's awesome. Dude, I need to rewatch that movie because I haven't actually rewatched it since I've seen Rebels. And I think it will be a whole new experience watching it again since I've seen Rebels. That's awesome. I've always really enjoyed Rogue One. It's kind of in that 6 to 9 range. Like I said, it can be ranked 6 one day. It could be ranked 9 one day. It's not today, but it's whatever. But I haven't seen it in a while, but I really love the part. I always remember Jyn being at the beginning of the movie where she's like, you don't, it's not your problem if you don't look up. and then seeing where she goes, she literally puts her life on the line and sacrifices it all for the cause, and it's just such a great arc. I love it.
So
Yeah.
I have a friend, she's watching on YouTube and she can't comment because she can't log in anyway. Whole long thing, but anyway. She texted me and she said, "Yes, Rogue One. I hate that movie."
Yeah.
Tell her to
Sorry,
get a
I
YouTube
just
account.
ratted her out.
Tell her to get a YouTube account and leave us comments.
She said, "It sucks."
Wow.
She's the only person that I've met that
I beg to
literally
differ.
does not like Rogue One. It was just so depressing and sad. Like, she just didn't like it.
God, I love being depressed and sad.
I mean, for me, it felt like the movie was written backwards, and like the three acts didn't fully connect to one another. Like it felt like, okay, we're gonna get this story about kyber crystals, right? Because that's what her dad studied, and that's what was around her neck. That's what they were mining on Jeddah, and that's how she met Chariot. He sends the kyber crystal. He says the strongest stars have hearts of kyber, and then that just gets thrown away. It's never brought up again. And like, there's a few things that were just like, oh, what happened?
Yeah.
But I was the only person that noticed. So
I really wish they had done more stuff with the kyber crystals as well, because especially since they were taking it from that temple, you'd think that they would go into more how it worked with the Death Star, and I don't know, just
since that's
more
the whole
lore,
idea
maybe.
of the, yeah, that makes sense.
I'm willing to bet any amount of money that that's what the reshots were. That him putting a flaw in the Death Star was not related. And that second act is what was reshot. Like, I think they wrote it based off the third act and wrote up to that and then replaced the middle act. That's what I feel, especially after reading
always
Catalyst.
forget that they reshot a huge chunk of that.
Well, yeah, there was a whole lot of behind the scenes, like, you know, redoing and movement, and like they had to. I remember it was kind of like the news came out today about Obi-Wan. The first draft was too bleak. I heard similar things about this. It was too much like a war movie, like without any hope whatsoever. And ultimately, like for me, and I felt the same way about the Obi-Wan stuff. It was like, I think adding hope to Star Wars is a good call. Like I think I think it's been a part of it from day one. And so like I think that for me they ended up with a great movie. But I totally get the criticism. So Jessica, what is your number 9 / number 3? This is actually really hard to. It's actually really hard to like.
Mine
format.
is Rogue One as well.
Oh, okay.
Really?
Yeah, even though I do love that movie, I know you said that, and I was like, I'm not going to give it away this time because that's something I'm so bad about. People will say, and this is blah blah. I'm like, me too. And Michael's like,
I'm like, you're giving it away too early. You did that just last week.
Yeah, I just get too excited. So see, I didn't do it this time.
Good job.
But I got to see this in theaters again for the Disney Plus Day, and so that was so fun. I was really wanting to see A New Hope because I haven't seen it in theaters, and that is my favorite, will always be my favorite Star Wars movie. So I was a little sad when Rogue One started, but I still love Rogue One, so it was fine. But it's my number 9, and there's so many good parts about this movie, and I think that's why it like leads up to the end. One of the ending scenes is my favorite of this movie because you see everything that everybody goes through. You know, all your, spoiler alert, everybody dies. You know, and
What?
It's been out long enough. It's fine.
Yeah, I think you're good. 6 years long enough usually.
Yeah. And so you get to the end, and I know this was a part that was heavily criticized, and I love it. I cry every time I see it. And that is when, you know, you get all of this, you know, Jen has gone through everything to get this signal out. And then you see, you know, the amazing scene that they do with Darth Vader, and he's trying to get, you know, the disc and everything, and he's killing all the people, and it's so good. And then they do the shot and they say, what is it that they've sent us? And then you see Leia and she says, hope.
Hope.
And that just gets me in my feels every single time. I love it so much. Like, that's something where I'm like, I don't even care if the CGI is perfect. I don't care. Like, people harp on it all the time. Like, I don't care. To see, like, that was the last thing I expected watching that movie the first time, was to actually see Leia. And in her iconic white outfit, and to say hope, just like, I mean, I love that. It's such a great ending to that movie. All of the build up just leads up to that, and it's funny how we talked about you have to have hope in Star Wars, and I know that was probably added later, but it's just perfect. I just love it.
I forgot they literally did probably add that later, and it's like, wow, they literally added hope.
Yeah.
The word hope.
Yeah, and it seems so dumb, but it's just so true to her character.
Doesn't seem dumb.
It's
Not at all.
I love it. I love that scene. I will cry every time I see that movie. It's so good.
I love how it recontextualizes the beginning of A New Hope, where Vader's like, oh, I was there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, you can't. It's like, no, it's a diplomatic mission.
Yeah.
That was a different ship. Like, hey, Corellia makes a lot of ships. Like, I don't know who you're talking about. Listen,
I love how it goes into basically like the last couple of minutes of that movie are, you're in A New Hope, and it's like this really weird, bizarre feeling. But I think they did such a good job connecting those. It really works for me.
Yeah.
no.
Only thing that could have made it a little better is unless I'm remembering it wrong, I don't think we see R2 and C3PO running around, right? We don't see them yet. That would have been hilarious.
They had a scene earlier, but no, not on.
Right, yeah, in the hangar. Okay, so my first one that I'm going to bring
your
up.
turn.
It's my turn now. My number 9 today, as of this minute, is The Force Awakens, and I love this movie. Sometimes it's been number 6. It literally is like.
You see my little tear.
Yeah, well, listen, it pains me to talk about it on this show of like bottom 3. Right now, at the moment, Solo is above it, because I just did a rewatch of Solo not long ago, and I just had so much fun with it, and it's still fresh on my mind. And then and The Phantom Menace has been clawing its way up my rankings, and it's number, I think, 7 or 8. But yeah, so for me, those two movies are just kind of right there above it, like a point above it. But The Force Awakens, next time I rewatch it, it's probably going to go right back above those. But I really love this movie. It's got its issues. I think, when it first came out, everyone criticized it for being A New Hope light and all this stuff. And it's really safe, and all that stuff is fair. And I think that the biggest problem I have with this movie is the lack of world building, just across the board. Like, they destroyed the Republic before I got a chance to care about it, and you have to read the books to really learn more about the New Republic, and that stuff really bums me out. And so, that being said, this movie has so much going for it. It is probably the most rewatchable of the sequels for me. I rewatch this movie all the time, but I think for me, my favorite moment of this is Rey's introduction at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
The way that they introduce her character with so few words at the beginning, it's like this 5 minutes, maybe 4 minutes of screen time, and it's just, you see her, scavenging, the beautiful John Williams music behind her as she slides down that sand dune. And seeing her
scoop her up and like,
oh my gosh, every time. And then you see her just scrubbing the parts that she just got out of the Star Destroyer, and you see her like getting, like, trading it in for like a quarter portion and of food. And then you see her go back. My favorite part is when she goes back to her home, which is like an old, I think it's an AT-AT if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
She goes into her home, And there's just everything in there is telling us she's been here for a long, long time. Like there's a shot of like these flowers and they're dying, and there's this shot of an old like a doll of a pilot, of a rebellion pilot, and it's like you can tell she's had that since she was a little girl. She keeps time on, on the wall, and you can tell she's been there for forever because of how many lines are written on it. And it's just beautiful storytelling, visual storytelling. And then she goes out, she's eating her food, which, by the way, I also really love the part where you see her food cooking and it's like just rising up.
Yeah.
I don't know why I love that part so much, but you also see her eating her food, looking out at the stars, and like knowing like she can't leave. She doesn't want to leave, but she also knows that she's meant for more, and she watches the ship go away and she puts that helmet on. It's so adorable, and it tells us so much about Rey as a character and her strength and her just how long she's been there, how alone she is. I think you learn so much about her in that 4 minutes. I don't know how people just don't think that Rey is a developed character. In that moment, in those 4 minutes, she's a developed character. Like, I know so much about her after those 4 minutes or whatever, how much it is. I love it. That is a God. When I think, I don't want to get overly negative, but when I think about that moment, and then I think about my issues with the other movie that JJ did in the trilogy, JJ is capable of moments like that. It boggles my mind knowing that he did some of the stuff that he did later on. We'll talk about that later. But I really, really love this moment. I really love Rey as a character, and that is my number whatever. That's my first that's my first option that we're talking about tonight. So
you're number 9.
Number 9.
It is such a beautiful moment, and it just always puts a smile on my face. Like you're right. That's like a perfect introduction, and I get the criticisms of the similarities between A New Hope, but that's actually what makes it. Is they show these characters being the exact opposite of the person that it's supposed to mimic. Like I feel like the similarity in the stories is supposed to highlight that Rey is literally the exact opposite person from Luke. Like he's trying to leave, and like
she has to get back to Jakku the whole time. Like you're so right. But at the same time, you can tell she's always like the way I can't help, like I totally agree with you. But then at the same time, you can tell she's conflicted on that because she's looking out at that ship leaving and thinking, I feel like she's thinking, should I leave? Like, can I leave at some point? Like, I feel like she knows she's meant for more somehow.
And that's why the scene of her scrubbing the thing is so, because she looks and she sees an old woman doing the same thing. And like,
yes, is that going to be me?
Your future.
Oh, so good. What an introduction. JJ, you are just absolutely brilliant. If your whole movie of The Rise of Skywalker was more like that, I would love it. I just would. But we'll talk about that later. And again, I'm not going to bash the movies that are coming up. I'm not going to bash them this whole time. I'll talk about them a little bit, but I'm not going to. This is not a bashing session of our least favorite movies. Again, this is an exercise to talk positively about our favorite things about those movies. But The Rise of Skywalker is hard for me. It just is.
We'll get you there at some point.
I
don't know how, but it'll happen.
We'll see. For Choco's show, I did a rewatch of the entire trilogy, and that one was tough for me. It really was. It was worse than the last time I watched it. So, Jess, I'm going backwards.
You know what's funny though? You mentioned the rewatchability, and I actually feel like, because Episode 8 is my favorite Star Wars film of all time.
I love you,
but I actually think both 7 and 9 are more rewatchable.
They are,
because 8 is like that fancy dinner that you're like, I can't eat this every day or I will die.
You have to,
heavy. It's dark.
You have to prepare for that. Like, I can't see Luke go through that like once a month. I can't see
Oh,
that.
what do I want to watch? Let's watch this.
I can't
let's
do
watch
that.
this struggle.
Even though I love it. That's like my favorite part of the movie. But because that's my favorite, I don't want to go back and watch, like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of like the saddest movie, Schindler's List. I don't want to rewatch that once a month. I'm not saying The Last Jedi is on that level, but
it's not quite a palate cleanser.
It's not. It is something you have to prep for. It is heavy. It's deep. It's a lot.
And it is probably my most watched second movie in a trilogy, like movie ever. I don't like second
You don't like
movies.
second movies.
And I love The Last Jedi. It is so weird that I like that movie because I don't like second movies.
So you don't need to answer my question of the best sequel of all time, but I already have conscripted you into coming on the High Ground podcast to talk about A New Hope, because that's like a couple movies away. So
I don't know who you're talking
rules.
to. I don't know who you're talking to right now, but
I'm talking to her.
That's what I figured. I was like, I think you're talking to Jessica, but I don't want to like.
She can't say it's her favorite movie and me not.
Yeah, it will. I'm just such a nostalgic person, and I just love that movie so much.
It's so good on so many levels.
It's
I
the
love
beginning of it all, of all of this.
it. All right, Choco, let's go with your number 10 and your favorite moment from it.
Number 10, favorite moment is just the music, the scenery, the way it's shot, the silhouettes of Anakin and Padme riding out into the arena.
That's a good moment.
Attack of the Clones is has to be that, but like, and I know there's the dialogue was a little wooden. But it works for me. You're like, he's never talked to a girl before, and if the first girl you talk to is Natalie Portman, like, bruh, that's an uphill battle for the best of us. So,
I actually forgot about the dialogue there. It's pretty rough.
I'm haunted by the kiss you should never have given me. You're like, is Bill Shakespeare back there? Like, do we forget where we are?
I am truly, deeply in love with you.
It's a hard line, man. And it was
Anyway,
Natalie Portman. It is
continue.
What it is.
I'm sorry.
It is what it is. Early 2000s. It is what it is.
Speaking of which, everyone pre-order Queen's Hope. It comes out on April. Takes place right after this film. So it's not links in the bio. No, there's actually a lot of moments that I really love in this movie. It's just not arranged in the best way, I think. But like as a kid, wanting to see the Jedi at the height of their power and seeing all of them light up in that arena was just so freaking cool. I lost my mind. Having Mace Windu be like, if for anyone listening, I'm black.
What?
but like I remember being in school when we play Star Wars on the playground, and I'd be like, I'm Luke Skywalker, and they'd be like, no, you're not. Like, you could be Lando or Chewbacca, and I'm like, oh. and so like,
yes, you can't be Luke Skywalker. Beat those kids up for you. That's what I would have done as a kid.
Well, nah, I was like, screw you, I'm Vader now. And
yeah.
He's black.
Yeah, I play by my own rules, but having that was amazing. And then also, like, the older I get, the more I enjoy these like weird small moments. Dexter Jetster is so underrated. I need a Dexter Jetster show. I've been trying to pitch this, like, Lucasfilm, if you're watching this, Dexter Jetster, we need like a Cheers style diner show where like he's clearly in the witness protection program. You can't bring him like a weapon used to kill someone. And he's like, oh yeah, that's a toxic dart. The Kaminoans use them. They clone people. You're like, how do you know all this? He's in the witness protection program, and now he runs a diner. And I need a show about him protecting his neighborhood, and then it gets out who he is, and then like he has to like fight them, and yeah, it's a whole thing. But
Why?
there's so much like
now I need this.
He's obviously also like
No, I
if someone
need it.
if someone looks at you the way that Obi-Wan and Dexter look at each other, marry him.
Dude, it is such a like welcoming, like it's the biggest smile Obi-Wan gives in the entire movie.
Yeah. Oh, also the Obi-Wan sass in this film is top.
Oh, it's amazing. Yes. Okay, so I love that. I think we're going to talk plenty about Attack of the Clones here for a second. So I'm going to go ahead and say, Jess, what's yours? What's your number 10?
We're twinsies again.
Yeah, I mean, here's spoiler alert. We're all going to be twinsies on this one. So
yeah, but
fun.
we're real twinsies because I actually had the same exact part of the. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, I have a different one.
The same part of it.
Wow. Interesting. Okay, elaborate. Do you have more to elaborate on?
Yes, I do.
I'm
That's
sorry
good.
for stealing parts.
Wow.
didn't steal
Stealing
any
your
part.
thunder.
So, while the dialogue is so rough in that section, I agree with everything that you said about, he didn't really talk to girls. It's Padme. He's had this crush on her like his entire life. Like, no big deal.
Ross and Rachel.
I love the moment, and I think Hayden, out of all of that dialogue that's so hard, I think he hits this one part, like in his facial expressions and his eyes, like so perfect, is when he says, "You love me?" Like, he literally genuinely looks shocked, like almost, but not like shocked, like it's more of a, I didn't think anybody could love me. You know what I mean? Like, someone loves me. Like, my mom died. Like, we went through all this stuff. We're
Council
about
doesn't
to
trust
die.
me.
Yeah, I don't know. And I wanted to pick this part because I love that whole arena scene. I think it's fantastic. I think C-3PO has some of his best cheesy lines ever. I just love it. It's best Star Wars cheese fest ever. Like, that whole thing is just
Die,
fantastic.
Jedi,
And I just love it. Like you were talking
this
about
is such
as
a drag.
kid.
I'm quite
As
beside
a
myself.
kid, you're watching it, and it was just so great to see all of those Jedi lightsabers like light up all around the place. It's just such a great like moment, and but I love that part of that line where he literally, like, if you watch it, like, it's almost like painful to him. Like, you love me? Like, someone actually loves me. And I think out of all of that, how hard the dialogue is, that one part, like, it's almost like he's going to cry because he can't believe someone loves him, especially her. And I find that so interesting, especially to his character, because Anakin is one of my favorite characters. And that happened from watching the Clone Wars, the animated show. Like, he's just one of my favorite characters. And his story arc and his redemption is just so wonderful. I love the writing of his character overall. And so I love that moment. It's such a little moment, but it's just so good because it's genuinely just, if you think everything he has against him and they're about to die and, all of those things. But if you rewatch that movie, rewatch that one part and just look at his face, it's almost like tortured, but like, it's just great. It's great.
I love that. I love it. This movie is so interesting. And Jess, we were talking earlier about the arena scene, and you just assumed that was going to be my favorite. And I was like, honestly, that's not even one of my like top favorite. Like, it's cool and I love it. It's just not one of my top favorite. But when when Chaco, when you brought up the swelling of the music as they're entering the arena, I was like, oh yeah, that's a moment. That's a good moment. And Across the Stars takes every moment that it's in,
And it's
and it makes
after
it's
the kind of bad dialogue.
yeah,
But
it's right
a little
between.
bit
It's
of
in
a
that
sweet
sweet spot.
moment.
Yeah.
It's still that all that happened, and it's like the
Yeah.
rush of the emotions, and
Yeah.
they're gonna
Yeah.
die, and then you see, and then Padme's like up that thing, like, oh, it's fine. I always loved that, watching that, especially as a girl, like.
She seems to be
There's
on top
two
of things.
Jedi. Like they're like, how are we gonna get out of this? And Padme's already picked the lock, probably with like a bobby pin or something. Like, what a girl move! And then she's like shimmying up this.
Yep.
I always loved that. That movie for me as a girl, like a little girl watching it, like I always loved a lot of the scenes that are so cheesy. Like people don't like it when they're in the droid factory and all that stuff. But for me, as a little girl watching it, it was so cool to see Padme like get out of all these situations and not necessarily need help in all of them. And I don't know, just
Yeah.
it's fun.
And it's cool too because you see her doing all that stuff in like all this physical stuff in that part. And then but earlier in the movie you see her as like she's a powerful politician. And so it's just like it's cool to see her in all of these different facets. I love
And then to know it's
when she
Leia's mom.
slaps down Anakin, Anakin's like, oh, we should do this. She's like, oh yeah, this is just a Padawan. He's not a Jedi. We're not doing that. Don't listen to him. Can you stop?
Yeah.
Stop it.
Stop it.
Yep.
And you're like,
and I just love how
damn.
perfect they did of seeing Leia. Like Natalie Portman understood the assignment. Like I
She
am
did.
Leia's mom. I'm an iconic woman, like character's mom, and she nailed it.
She did. I think Padme's a great character.
One thing I think gets glossed over a lot, and someone brought it up because I actually recently did Attack of the Clones as an episode, is like in the beginning when they like Obi-Wan's jumping out the windows and stuff, that Anakin's like, this whole thing was her idea. And you forget, like, oh no, she is just as rambunctious and like devious as anyone. You know what I mean? Like this is she's awesome.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I do love their wedding scene in that too.
It's so beautiful.
Her dress and the music,
it's gorgeous. It's an amazing scene. Again, Across the Stars classes up the joint. But everything in that scene classes up the joint. It's such a great scene. For me, this movie is also my number 10. It used to be my least favorite Star Wars movie. I honestly can talk about so many moments in this movie that I love, like genuinely love. And I do think we have to give the Clone Wars credit a little bit. For me personally, it really did help a lot. I know it helped a lot of people kind of contextualize the movies a little bit, at least. Like, I don't know, it for whatever reason, the movie is still the same as it's always been. Nothing's changed about the movie. But for just knowing the world now, a little, knowing the Clone Wars and how they happened, and seeing this leading up to it, and expounding on all these things that this movie started, like Camino and the clones, and all of this stuff. You see the beginning of the Clone Wars at the end of the movie. There's a lot of great things to have here in this movie. When I was a kid, I remember specifically what everyone was going crazy about was Yoda fighting his lightsaber, doing a lightsaber battle against Dooku. That was like when I was a kid, that's what we were all freaking out about. That's what I was freaking out about. And
everybody was trying to like recreate that fight,
Yep. Yeah.
It's fun because I have like two minds about it because I loved it, but also I have like my sister's 2 years older than me, and my uncle's 2 years older than her. And so I had those like older people, and all of them were telling me this is so stupid. Like Yoda would never fight with a lightsaber. That's so out of character. And
that's a ridiculous thing to say.
It is now. It wasn't then. And that's the crazy part. And that's what I was gonna say is like it's the same movie it's always been, but also large chunks of the fandom have changed as well. The people that were most vocal about hating it are now mature enough where they're like, I still don't like it, but like I don't need to talk about it.
Yeah,
My love for the prequels just gets more, I feel like.
mine too. Honestly,
They're
So-
in like 2 and 3 spot right now.
I know. Yeah. So you're
crazy.
ranking. You have A New Hope, and then you have, was it The Phantom Menace,
and then Revenge of the Sith, yeah.
That's a.
And
I've
I told
never,
you, I said when I rewatched a bunch of stuff, I was like, the prequels just went up for me. I don't know why, but they did.
I have never seen a top 3 like that. Never, ever in my life.
Impressive.
It is.
I'm a weird one.
Most
It's fine.
impressive. But yeah, for me, I could talk about. There are so many individual parts. I think for me, the pacing of this movie actually does get me down a little bit. Like I remember there was a spell of time. I think I've told y'all this on the podcast. There was a spell of time where I literally tried to watch this movie like 3 times, and I kept falling asleep. Like I couldn't get all the way through it. I don't know what it is.
Never fallen asleep in a Star Wars movie. How does that happen?
I don't understand this
You just
movie.
watch it too late, maybe?
No, I think this
It
movie
pulled the soul out of me.
I do think it feels really, really long, even though The Last Jedi is longer. Like, I know that this isn't even the longest Star Wars movie, but it feels like the longest Star Wars movie. It really does. So it has those issues, but I can talk about so many things, even little things like Dexter Jetster. Like I could talk about him all day, and I want to go in on this show with you. Let's talk about it. Like we could talk about that in the Hondo maneuver.
And Detective Obi-Wan, I love Detective Obi-Wan.
Detective Obi-Wan is the best because he's like he literally has no idea what's happening at any point, and he's just like walking into rooms, having conversations, and still having no idea what they're talking about.
Yep. He goes into this room with Yoda and younglings, and he's like, "Here's my problem. What would you do about it?" And Yoda's like, kids, what do you think?" And the kid's like, they removed it from the archives. Obi-Wan's like, "Oh yeah, that's a good idea, kid." like he really doesn't know the
opposite of the Batman.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet.
Dude, yeah. It's so good. Okay, but here's my thing. Y'all kind of did a precursor. My favorite moment, and it's kind of cheating, but kind of not. My favorite moment in this movie is just Obi-Wan on Kamino. All of it is so good. If I have to pick a moment, the conversation with Jango Fett is so tense. It's so good. You brought up the Obi-Wan sass
Sexual
earlier.
tension.
It's palpable. No, but you brought up the you brought up the Obi-Wan sass earlier, and both of them in this scene are so sassy, but like deadpan face though. Like neither one of them is smiling. It's just literally like on occasion. Like it's so good. The tension is just so thick. But I also just love we're being introduced in this part to Kamino and seeing the clones being created, and we are seeing like all these different ages of clones. They're growing, they're at different levels of their maturation. And it's very sci-fi too. It's got a super Minority Report vibe to it.
Yeah.
Big time there. And which I love. I think that's great. And / iRobot too. I think both of those are there. But I just think that this is George Lucas was so good at world building. And from the moment he flies into this super rainy ocean planet on these platforms, these strange looking buildings, and then he goes in and it's just like this white, it's super modern, like white and cold, clinical kind of a feel. And then you see the clone army, and we see Jango Fett is the clone that they were all based off of, and we see Boba Fett as a kid, and then we see them fight at the end, and the fight is also awesome. That is like the unsung duel of this trilogy is Obi-Wan versus Jango Fett. It's such a great battle there. But yeah, that's probably, if I have to choose.
And that battle leads to the dubstep bomb.
Wait, what?
So-
I think I missed something.
I refer to the seismic charge as a dubstep bomb.
Boom. Oh man. Oh, the sound design in this movie is so good too. Yes.
Yeah. I
Oh,
will argue,
so good.
though, that there is no such thing as any Star Wars project
With
a
bad
good
sound
pacing.
design.
No, with good pacing. All the pacing is just is weird in all Star Wars. You mentioned that earlier, and I was just thinking about it.
That's fair. If you think about it.
Oh, I think Solo might be well paced. I think Solo is pretty well paced. But I think you're right. I think it is Solo, as odd as it sounds, I think might be the best paced Star Wars film.
Yeah. No, I can see that.
You see that? I think a little bit. I think you're right. The Last Jedi, again, amazing. It is weirdly paced. People have problems with the pacing. I get it. It's up and down and
It's just
like funny
Star
to
Wars pacing.
funny
It's
to
its
depressing.
own-
It
its
is.
own
Star Wars
thing.
pacing is absolutely its own thing.
If it wasn't
Star
for,
Wars' own
for
genre
Marsha
anyway.
Lucas, if it wasn't for Marsha Lucas, A New Hope would have been 40 minutes of just droids in the desert.
Instead, we only had 20, which is a lot.
But it was solid. That conversation of them
Oh man.
Oh. Yeah.
picked the
But-
best part.
But that's also why George Lucas's favorite Clone Wars arc is the D Squad arc of just the droids just driving through this weird, like, gray purgatory for like
Oh George.
4 episodes.
Oh George. Oh,
That's a hard one for me.
I remember when I was watching through the show, and I didn't watch it live. I watched it just a few years ago for the first time. And I got to that part, and I was texting my brother. I was like, dude, I don't know if I can get through this. And I didn't know what was coming next. That arc is right before the Mandalore arc and the Ahsoka arc in season 5. And he was like, dude, please just watch it. What's on the other side of it, just, you have no idea. And I was like, okay, here we go. And I did finish it, and it was bad. But man, what happened on the other side of that
how
arc?
mean that little guy is to the droids.
Little amoeba gas.
Yeah,
gas
I
gun.
know.
He's so mean.
All right, guys, is it time for number ones? I mean, I'm sorry, for number for number 11.
And it hurts me. I don't want any Star Wars movie to be in last place.
I know you don't, but one has to be because numbers.
Well, I know
Numbers.
at least one of us are twinsies.
Yeah, we're gonna be twinsies on this one. But Choco, what's your least favorite? And I say that, by the way, I say that intentionally. Least favorite, not what's the worst. What is your least favorite Star Wars live action movie? And what is the moment that you love from it?
And like I said, this used to be Rogue One for a long time until last year. I mean, whenever I started the podcast, it's been over a year now. But yeah, it's Rise of Skywalker. This film, though, this is C-3PO's best film. This is C-3PO's
I
film.
completely agree. So good. Babu Frick.
my dearest friend. He's my oldest and dearest friend. I don't know. I love that moment so much. But there's this thing I find with people who love The Last Jedi who went into this film with specific expectations. And yes, there is definitely a very clear changing of the hands, and certain things were different. However, when I finally, and this was also partially due to another episode when I did this film, this was actually my most anticipated one. But when you step back and divorce your mind from what you were expecting and look at what you got, I really appreciate the overarching story of blood versus legacy.
Yeah.
You know, are you owed this because of your blood, because of your birthright, or is the person who's actually doing the thing the person that's worthy of carrying this torch forward? And I I that got me, you know. And also on, um, I do have a non-traditional family, um, to where my my parents split up. My dad married a white woman who was previously married to a Filipino guy, so she had two kids with him, then the two kids with my dad, and it's me and my sister and my brother, and so we all went out to dinner, and we looked like a college recruiting thing with like it was just like so diverse, but like family's weird, and understanding that, um, seeing the acceptance was was beautiful because it's not about blood. It was never about blood, and I think that's just an important message to get across. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, man. And I'll go ahead and go too, since that we're like I said, we're twinsies on this. I'll go ahead and go here in a second, but for me, I have so many like issues with this movie, and I can talk for a long time about them if I wanted to. But I like a lot of the broad strokes. I really love, like you just said, I love Rey choosing the Skywalker name and taking on that and forsaking her, her bloodline, and choosing and taking that power. I think that's such a great moment. I think that's beautiful. It's something I had to divorce myself from my previous desires, because I was totally one of the Ray Nobody people. And if I'm being honest with myself, I still love that idea, like I also love what we got with Ray Skywalker. Um I Here's what I didn't like the execution of a lot of the broad strokes. I liked her choosing that. I liked Ben's redemption. I liked a lot of, even like the gang being all together, having that chemistry and that banter back and forth. It felt kind of like the original crew, in the original trilogy. It was fun. There was a lot of fun to be had there. Um, and I like there. I can talk on and on about. There are things in this movie I really do like. It comes down to execution for me, and I think there's a lot. Even I was trying to watch a few clips of this to kind of prep, and I was just like, oh, that's not very good. Just from a movie making slash dialogue writing slash just how they executed things, this movie just completely drives me insane to watch all the way through. It really does. But there is
I will
there
say
will
that. Oh, sorry. Keep
no,
going.
no, 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 you go ahead. What's up?
Oh, there was just there are certain like artistic aspects of it that just give me so much serotonin. Like when they're fighting and he's on Kajimi and she's in his room and then they hit the berries and
Oh,
the
dude, that's
spell into the
awesome.
white, and like
Yes.
that
Yes.
whole was beautiful. And also you have to appreciate Ben Solo running around in his pajamas, just like
Yes.
just being all floppy, but he finally feels like he is himself.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I really love the Kylo Ray stuff, just like I did in The Last Jedi. I thought JJ picked up with that stuff and kept running as if nothing happened. In a good way. Like I think he continued that in a brilliant way. And established like stuff being passed through the Force, like the lightsaber at the end. Like I love that stuff. I'm totally good with all that stuff. And so for me though, like I think this movie, I think there were still parts of this movie, even though it frustrates me at points, there is still a lot to glean from this movie from an overarching perspective. And I do, it's kind of an obvious one, but my moment in this one to pick that I really love is Han and Ben. The moment where we get Ben back and Han in the memory. Um, the them talking there, along with like Leia sacrificing herself through in the Force, and and that being kind of what saves Ben. And it's such a powerful moment. And then Han, when he says, I love when he said, "Hey kid," I just instantly got emotional. Like, even though even when I'm watching this movie and things are frustrating me, it gets to this part, you see Ben looking out into the ocean and you hear, "Hey kid," and it's like, oh man, so good. It's so good. It gets me every time. And then the lines where Ben says, and it's mimicking what Ben said to, or what Kylo at the time said to Han in The Force Awakens. He said, "I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it." And Han says, "You do." And then he takes the lightsaber and symbolically throws it. Even though part of me is like, dude, you're going to need that. But like symbolically, it's absolutely beautiful. And
the edit of Grievous running past him.
Dude, someone made that, right? Someone made that into a video. I think it's so good. Man, it's a great moment. And it will always resonate with me, as will just her claiming the Skywalker legacy and being a part. Dude, one of my favorite things about Star Wars is found family and choosing your family. We have so many examples throughout, not just the original trilogy, but in Rebels and in the Clone Wars and in like
Mandalorian?
The Mandalorian, and it Star Wars is all about found family from the beginning. And so to have Rey choose to be a Skywalker at the end, I have to put right up there with that moment with Han and Ben. I think it's a beautiful thing. I'm so glad I came around to it, because honestly, like when it happened in the movie the first time, I was like, what? Like I had my expectations, and they didn't get met, all that stuff. But the more that I've watched the movie, even though some things haven't aged very well for me, some things have gotten worse and worse, there are parts like that have gotten even better, and I can appreciate Rey's full arc of the trilogy. And I'm so glad that I can look back on this trilogy and see, like, at least, even though I don't love The Rise of Skywalker, I can see Rey has a very clear, distinct, and beautiful arc in this trilogy. And The Rise of Skywalker did that. It finished that, and it did a good job with it. And so, yeah, that's my thoughts on The Rise of Skywalker, and that's my moment. Jess, finish us off. What about you?
Again, I hate this.
Which Star Wars movie do you hate?
I don't hate any of them, and I love this movie so much. And I hate saying that this is my last one right now because it got so much hate. And I was somebody that literally loved it from when it came out. And I love the tie-ins to like all the animated and everything. But right now it has to be Solo. If it has to be like a last one, even though I absolutely love this movie. I feel like I just need to talk about how much I love it, because I just don't like saying some things at the end.
I love this movie, but this is what
I don't want to seem like one of those people that hate it, because so many and it didn't do very well at the box office, and
toxic.
Gosh, you're insufferable,
guys. I hate that like it did bad, because it's such a great movie. I feel like I might have seen it twice in theaters.
I did.
Yeah, but my favorite part of that movie, I think, is when it's really sold as like, okay, this guy's got it, like he's Han, is the moment when he comes back and he loses the coaxium and he has to go back and he's talking to Lady Proxima. I love that scene so much. It's so great. It's so Han. It's like, I love seeing them build his character and to see like, okay, this is why he is. Because I've talked about this on the podcast before. Han was not one of my favorite characters as a kid. Like I always thought he was like arrogant and really annoying. Like as a girl, I was just like,
he is arrogant.
I don't really like him. Like I just didn't like him that much. I loved Luke so much more. And so, but to see like him, see like where he came from and what brought him to where it has made me love Han's character so much more.
Hmm.
And I like him more as an adult, even without Solo, because as an adult, like, you get it. Like, people are, they've been wronged so many times. Like, you know, like, what are you going to do? You're going to lose faith in people, and you're going to lose hope, and you're going to be a little cocky and a little, like, that's just, it's life, you know? But I love that. I love he grabs the rock and he like goes. She's like, you just made that noise with your mouth. No, I didn't. You know, like that whole thing is so good. Like, it's so Han. I love it so
that is
much.
so consistent with like Han in The Force Awakens when he's
Yes.
like
I just wing it.
talking to
basically.
Conja Club and like all that, and he's like, wait, did I do like he is so that aloof Han.
Yeah,
100%. You're right. He is so Han in that moment.
I love it. And like, you just see the beginning of his character, and that's what I love. I love like deeper characters and knowing why they are the way that they are. I think that's why I love Anakin as a character. I don't think if he wasn't redeemed, but since he is a redeemed character, because that itty gritty, like the stuff that you go through, that like what makes a person tick and what makes a person be the way that they are in A Rise of Skywalker. That's why I love, and y'all probably don't like it, but I love the part where Ben says ow. Like, I love that, because like
what part is
when
that?
he in Exegol, he like jumps and
he's in his pajamas. Yeah,
and he's
yeah.
Like, I love that part. Like, that got so much hate, but I love it because it's like when you strip away all his hate and you strip away like everything that gave him so much power, to where The Force Awakens, you see him like beating his wound, you know, like, let me feel the pain, and then to see him jump and just be like, ow. Like, it's just like, it's the humanity of it. It's just fantastic, you know?
I love that.
I mean, that was actually like kind of a turning point for me as well, because imagine like you are the heir to the Jedi, and like Luke Skywalker is your uncle, and you're named after Ben Obi-Wan Kenobi, and your mom is like this senator who's also a Jedi and all this stuff, and you are exactly like your dad, that guy. Like, you know what I mean? You're like, oh man. But when he finally is himself, it's beautiful.
Jess, you had this great thought a while back when you were rewatching. What were you rewatching? Empire, and you were like, guys, Ben is so Han. It's crazy. Like you brought up, like when you see Ben, you see young Han.
I was saying he's a perfect mix of both of them.
That's right.
Like, if you watch Empire and you watch Han and Leia's interactions, like their facial expressions, like their pointing, like everything that they like clearly did on purpose in the sequels to you know, get, you know, he's like his dad or whatever. But like, if you watch it, it's like, you're like, man, Adam Driver did his research. Like, he watched this and he's like, how can I be a copy of these two people? And he did. Like, he's just a phenomenal actor. Like, everything he does is just so great. Like, I think he's just a wonderful actor. And so, I don't know. I love when you can see that people have done the time and they respect the character and they respect the movie that they're in, and they do the research, and that even goes to people writing his character, and, you know, all of that aspects. It's so great. You take two loved and cherished characters of Star Wars, you have to get that kid right. And I think they did such a great job developing Kylo Ren and Ben Solo. Like, they really did.
I agree.
But I mean, going back to Solo, your pick, Childish Gambino, you know, our guy, Donald Glover.
Donald Glover is so great.
He stole all the scenes, and just like it's.
He was born for that part.
I don't agree with it,
but I respect it.
Like,
I use that all the time on Twitter.
The casting like is so perfect for that movie. Like, they cast the best Like, I don't think anybody else could have done Lando other than Donald Glover. Like, it's just perfect. And then I never can say I can never say his name
Aaron
right.
Reich, I
Especially,
think.
yeah, on the spot, I can't say his name right. But anyway, like, people were so like, he doesn't look enough like Han, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? It's like, he got that character right. And like, my dad loves Han Solo, and like they saw Star Wars from the beginning, and my dad is 70, and so like they were in their 20s when they saw the original movie, and he's always loved Han Solo, and getting to see Solo with my dad and like my parents, but especially my dad, was like such a cool experience because he was the person I was like the most concerned about, like, is he gonna like this movie, you know? And to see his reactions to, you know, one of his characters that he loved, and he loves Harrison Ford, and so someone else portraying that character, like, it made my heart so happy watching him watch that movie. And so that was such a cool experience, was seeing that movie and getting to see my dad's reaction to it. So
That's amazing.
You could definitely see him because, like, the very first time you see Han, he's going Han Solo, and like, you could definitely see on there doing that.
yeah.
But real quick, I gotta ask, are you guys reading Crimson Reign?
I
No.
haven't. No.
Okay,
I will, but I haven't.
you gotta. There's only been 2 issues of Crimson Reign, and it's Kira's story. It's Kira's story.
I love
and
Emilia Clarke, and I love Kira. It's so great.
and it is shockingly good.
Really?
It is like it. If you read, like, you can read War of the Bounty Hunters if you want to. That is kind of the prelude to it. That shows that she's alive and stuff. But the character of Kira is so badass. It's crazy. Yeah.
I
I
did,
just got a Kira.
and
Little
I did get the first several issues of War of the Bounty Hunters. So, and I read the first one, and I haven't gone past that, but I have the first several to read. So, I did plan on just starting there, but I don't know anything about Crimson Reign. So, can I just read those without reading the other ones before? You can do that, and it's fine.
I mean, as long as you know that she was the one that started the auction, that started the War of the Bounty Hunters to begin with.
Okay.
You just kind of have to understand that fact. But yeah, it contextualizes itself. And I think if you've seen Solo, I mean, it's not really, I guess it's kind of a spoiler. Can I tell you guys a part of it?
That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
After working with, Maul and all this stuff, Crimson Reign is a secret organization that wants to destroy the Sith.
Makes sense.
So they're non-force sensitive people who are like, listen, there are these people who are kind of running this galaxy, and it's bad, and we have to take them down. And it's led by Kira. If that's not like,
Yeah, that's cool.
come on, that's badass, and
Yeah.
it's all subterfuge and stuff. Yeah, y'all.
I love that. I want
Crimson
more
Reign.
Kira. So I love it.
Yeah, I do too.
I want a Solo too, even though I'm like, this is what lowest movie. I want a Solo too.
Every
So
May,
bad.
I get on the bandwagon, and I totally hashtag make Solo 2 happen.
Solo happen.
100%, I'm all aboard.
I mean, I would be disappointed if it went straight to Disney Plus. But even if that happened, I don't even care. Like, if we got a second Solo,
You're not gonna-
that'd be great.
I
If it's a
disagree.
movie.
I need it on Disney Plus. Listen, I feel like movies are no longer the best medium to tell
no.
story. Like, if you're trying to tell a story, I think the story needs as much time to breathe as the story needs time to breathe. So, like, there are good examples and bad examples. Like, some of the Netflix, like, Marvel stuff could have been cut down by like 3 episodes, but that was in the early days of like, we're used to doing 13 episode runs, so that's what we're gonna do. But we need something longer than a movie. We need shorter than the series, and just give it to me. And break it up. Don't release it all at once because I need time to digest. Like I will eat it all if you just hand it to me in one. Just
I just love all the Star Wars underworld stuff, and so I love
Yeah.
that part of Solo and how it builds on Clone Wars. And that was just such a I had just finished. I don't think season 7 of Clone Wars hadn't come out yet, correct? It came out
Yeah.
after Solo, right?
Yes,
yeah,
it did.
Okay, so I had watched everything up to that. And so I think I had finished right before Solo. And so it was so wonderful to watch all of that and then see it. I have people that I'm like, you cannot watch Solo until you finish Clone
Yeah, well, I did watch Solo before I had watched Clone Wars. So when someone pops up at the very end, I was like, "What? What?" I was very confused. My brother had to tell me what was going on, and then of course I watched it. Yeah, you're totally right. It's not even just the mall part. There's so much in that movie that you just don't appreciate.
No,
unless
you don't,
you've
because
seen
you get the
Clone Wars.
underworkings of so many.
Yeah.
You know who the Pikes are, and all
Yeah.
these different things because of watching Clone Wars. So.
I was so confused.
Why is he's like he came back, he had spider legs for a bit. It was kind of weird. His brother, they fought. He got wrecked by Palpatine and kidnapped. That was never really resolved in any shows, and then he's here. you have to get the resolution for that in
I was just like, what?
comics.
But I disagree with you, Choco. I need Star Wars movies in the theater. In the theater. Cinema.
If I could get the series in the theater, that would be ideal.
Best of both worlds. But
I hope they continue to do the Disney Plus Day and they continue to do a Star Wars, because how cool is that to get to see a Star Wars movie every year?
Yeah. That was such a cool idea. I didn't get to do it, unfortunately.
I hope they continue to do that, because that was just so neat to get to watch something again.
In the theater.
Even though it wasn't what I wanted, it was still amazing.
Because it was random, right? You didn't know what you were going in to see.
And it was
Star Wars.
so the 2 nights before were A New Hope. So I went in being like, it's going to be A New Hope. And it was Rogue One. Which was okay, because it was still so cool to see that again. But I was like, I wanted to see the closest I've gotten to see A New Hope, because I haven't seen any of the originals in theaters. And so the closest I got though was up here. We have an outside amphitheater. Of course it's Walmart Amp, they're the big sponsor. And so I live in Walmart World. So I live up in Bentonville.
You're like, of course it was Walmart. Like,
yeah.
No, literally, Bentonville,
the home. This
Bentonville
is the home.
the headquarters of Walmart, in the country. And there
of
are
the world.
Of the world, there are Walmarts
family is
everywhere. Yeah. They're all
And our Walmarts are so nice. It's great.
Yeah, they got the fancy ones.
So it's the amp. It's the amphitheater, and they did A New Hope, and they had the Northwest Arkansas Symphony play along with it. They're about to do this year. They're doing Black Panther, and I want to go to that so bad.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
That would be amazing. Yeah. They've done a lot of the Harry Potter. I want them to do more Star Wars. What I would love is if they did Phantom Menace.
I'm watching through for the first time.
And then they had a choir, because I would totally be in that choir and do it, because it'd be amazing to do Phantom Menace. But anyway, that's the closest I've got, and I got to go with my parents to that, and that was so fun. And
there's something magical about the theater, about seeing movies in the theater, whether it's at the amphitheater or whether it's in a cinema. I'm not prepared to give that up yet. I don't want everything to switch to streaming shows. I think both have their place. I think The Mandalorian is so good as a streaming show, and I think it should stay that way. And although I would be totally down for a Mandalorian movie, they could do that. But I want to see the Rogue Squadron movie in the theater. Yeah. I want to see Taika Waititi's movie in the theater.
I really hope his is a Lando movie, because he would write that so well. His humor would just be great.
I think
Okay,
he
okay.
could.
As long as Lando runs into Hondo.
Yes.
Oh, Hondo is perfect for a Taika
Yes.
Waititi movie.
Yes.
Hondo should absolutely be in that movie.
I just think like his humor, like he would do such a great Lando. Like, I mean, he would do a great anything Star Wars, to be honest. But
Yeah.
it would be
But yeah.
good.
So guys, well, let's go to the chat. We don't have a ton going on tonight. I guess people are busy on a Friday night, even though it's snowing here.
We already got it. Now you're getting it.
Yeah.
We got it this morning. You're welcome.
But we got Scott over here in the comments. So he did leave some pretty cool comments. So let's bring those up. So we got Scott. He says, my favorite from my worst is definitely the Searchers scene from Attack of the Clones, aka Anakin looking for his mom. Oh man, we didn't even talk about that. That's such a great and super depressing, but really, really great moment and pivotal for the trilogy. I don't know how none of us even mentioned that moment, or did someone and I didn't even.
No, we didn't
No,
bring it
and
up.
that's another reason why Padme saying she loved him even better in that movie because his mom didn't get to say it.
Oh, it's so sad.
Oh.
Scott says regarding Inquisitor head size, this is a prequel to Rebels. Have we completely dismissed the possibility that this is before he gets maimed in a force pull accident? I don't know what he's talking about.
Like
It's
his
just-
head gets stretched. Like...
Vader force squeezes his head.
I was like, did I miss something in Fallen Order or something? Because I haven't played it. That's good stuff. Okay, Scott says for the three trilogy calls to action, Anakin wants to leave. Staying for his mom is only an afterthought when he is able to leave. Luke wants to leave but refuses for his responsibility for his family. Only fate intervenes to rent that obstacle. And Rey wants to leave. Fate intervene and takes her off world, and she still wants to go back. Why does everyone want to go back to Jakku? Yeah, I mean that's pretty interesting. Some interesting thoughts there. I think I understand what you're saying. Little bit of some words that I think I missed, but yeah.
Well, it comes down to the Shakespeare quote of some people are born great. That's Anakin. He's the chosen one. Some people do great things, and that's Luke, and he was able to, rise to the occasion and bring his father back to the light. And some people have greatness thrust upon them, and that's Rey. She was not a part of the story, but fate needed someone and needed her. And yeah, I agree with this assessment as well. Also, real quick, I know it's a very easy train to go down to say that Finn was done dirty and that he should have been a Jedi and all this stuff.
Right.
I agree, and I disagree at the same time because of this one reason.
Nuance.
What these films are about specific people, and so like if this was Rey's journey, it shouldn't also be Finn's journey because either one of them would be incomplete. Just like and also each trilogy shafts one person, and I feel like that's just part of Star Wars. Like Padme is the strongest person in Star Wars, and she died of sadness. Leia,
she was relegated to staying in a bedroom for the entire third movie. Just about.
The original trilogy, they
Leia.
kind of ran out of things to do with both Leia and Han. I mean, Han obviously didn't know if he was coming back, but like Leia was force sensitive, and she showed that and that was her father, and like they didn't capitalize that. They didn't like train her as a Jedi. It was a very similar thing. but that's why I love Star Wars, that because it's not just movies, it's a universe. And I would love to get Finn's story of becoming a Jedi, and I don't need it in that movie. I would prefer to get it in a book. I need to get it separate where it can be the focus of its own story.
Right, and I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that was always my biggest thing with that particular criticism was that it people kept talking about it like Finn is the main character and or at least the co-main character, and he never really was. I mean, they all got great introductions. And Finn's, by the way, Finn's introduction is right up there with Rey's. It's amazing. It's brilliant. Equally brilliant storytelling visually. Gosh, that the bloody stormtrooper helmet and all, it's so good, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was always just like this story was clearly set up to be Rey's story from the beginning, and so I guess for me, I never understood fully that argument. But I do agree also that, I mean, I like his arc for the first two of the movies. I think him really like growing to care for Rey is what he did in the first movie. Growing to become rebel scum. He declares himself to be rebel scum finally. That's his journey in The Last Jedi. And then it's kind of everywhere in The Rise of Skywalker. He becomes co-general, but like I don't know how. It just kind of happened. But like
it's called nepotism. Like he joined us yesterday. Listen. I don't make the rules. Wait, yes, I do. He's co-general.
But I felt like, but again, that's more The Rise of Skywalker. I have a whole lot of story issues and character issues with that movie.
I they could have done. I feel like it was hard with Finn, and then Rose just got like completely left.
Oh, Rose. Oh, yeah.
Can I add one more scene that I love? I'm sorry, two more scenes. And both of these are in Rise of Skywalker, which are my least favorite. But
wait,
in the Phantom.
These are scenes that are your least favorite, or
that he likes
that you love?
That I like. That
okay, cool.
I really like.
I like focusing on things that we like, so I want to hear them.
In the Phantom Menace, Anakin as a child says, "My mom says that the problem with the galaxy is no one helps one another." And then you get there's more of us, Poe, and you're like, listen, I know we did this in Endgame already, but this is magical still. Like, you know, and in that, like those two scenes, and one from the first episode 1 and one episode 9, it's beautiful to me. And then the other one is still in that scene of Poe's trying to get to Finn, and then you hear Lando like, "It's not as fast as this ship," and you're like, and then the Falcon takes off, and you're like, "Yeah!" Like that part, I felt,
dude,
elated.
The not as many as us, or whatever the line is. I can't remember what the line is, but that part never quite hit for me. Only because, and I remember we talked about this on your show. I was like, when he turned that corner and you see all those ships, it's kind of like the same feeling I got when you see all of a sudden like a zillion Star Destroyers raising up from the ocean, or from the ice oceans or whatever. Yeah, it's like everything is turned up to 15, and none of it, there is no self-control here. Whenever he turns that corner and you see all of those ships, it's like so many ships that it's kind of insane. And it was a little ridiculous for me, but
I love it. It's like the
I love the bookend thing that you're talking about.
Down.
I love that, the thematic bookend. Yeah. I love that.
Speaking of books, that scene in the novelization, they start sounding off, and that makes me so happy because they're like, Ghost One, checking in, and like every Inferno Squadron checking in, Phantom Squadron, which like they start calling out things from everywhere, from all of the books, from all of the games, and as someone that like has consumed all of this media, it's just incredible. Yeah, if you
'Cause we've
if you
talked
guys
about-
haven't read Leia Bloodlines, you have
I
to.
have it.
I have it too. I just haven't read it.
It's another thing, you know, Michael. We've talked about like how characters run into each other in shows, but also they're all off doing their own things. Like people will be like, "Well, why wasn't Ahsoka here for this?" Or "Why wasn't she there?" Because she's off doing this. And so I think it's really cool at the end to see all these people drop all of those things and go, "Okay, this is like in the end goal. Like this is what we have to do. Like we have
Totally.
to come. This is important." And this, I don't know. I get emotional every time I see that.
Again,
scene. I love it.
another
Also,
instance of broad
need-
strokes. I like the broad stroke. I think the execution of it just didn't. I don't know
See,
why.
I
it just
don't mind
didn't
it,
work
but
for
that's
me.
the little bit of Star Wars video games that I've played. Like,
Yeah.
like playing like KOTOR and stuff makes me really like Exegol, and so it's
and the
just
dyad.
yeah. And so it's like one of
I
those
love the
things-
dyad, by the way.
Yeah, but there's stuff that they have pulled from other parts of Star Wars that I feel like kind of like, you know, Chago, you were saying like you saw those little Easter eggs and stuff more because like you recognize like from watching Rebels, like I loved that you could see the ghost. You know, like the more of it you know, I think maybe the more special that is, and maybe it seems a little too much for some stuff. And I mean, it was a lot. It was a lot of ships. It was a lot of ships, but
was
it's
a
an
ton of
entire
ships.
galaxy. It's not
Yeah.
just a planet. It's not just a solar system.
And
it's
I
an
do love-
entire galaxy.
And I
you
do
know?
love when he's like, no, sir, just people.
Yeah.
When he's talking to Pride, that's a great moment. Like, I really do love that. He's like, where did they get this army? No, sir, it's just people. I love that. It's so great.
And what's I think is really cool too is this is partially taken. So what's funny is people writing the sequels were huge expanded universe nuts. Like, and it's really clear.
Oh yeah.
In certain ways, but like, Palpatine in Return of the Jedi was about to hit his end game. Like the reason Anakin's coming back to the light was so important was because if it didn't happen now, it was game over, you know, because the entire conflict there was orchestrated by Palpatine because he's like, all right, final phase of the plan, we're taking over. Like, because originally it was actually just going to be a bunch of Death Stars. Like, you wonder why there was a second one like 3 years later. Yeah, he had more. He had more planned. And he's like, we're gonna draw all these rebels out, take them down, and then the galaxy is just ours. And then them contextualizing this with like, oh yeah, no, it was a fleet of planet killers that he was working on, and he was going to, you know, put the galaxy in his image, and like this was the last effort. And then, you know, he gets taken down and brought back, and like he's literally on his last leg in Rise of Skywalker. And it's like, I don't know, I just kind of love those ideas that were transposed, and then the way they did it. The Omen harness comes from Legends. The way that he did it with having a cloned body that he's trying to put his essence into comes straight from the Darth Bane books, as well as the method in which he actually did it comes from Dark Empire. Like, there's so many ties to all these other things that it's, I don't know, it's really fascinating, and it shocks me how many people like those things but don't like it in live action. It's shocking to me.
Yeah, and again, for me, it's all about execution. Like,
Yeah.
I think for me, as someone, I haven't, again, like I said earlier, I haven't read the EU books, but as someone, like, I have watched a ton of MCU movies, never read a single comic book in my life. And I've watched all of the MCU movies. They do such a great job of introducing things that everyone who's read comics is going to be like, ooh, that's that thing. But the noobs like me who love these movies but have no idea of like the history and the lore and like the comic books. They do such a good job of bringing us along with it, you know? And so for me, that's an execution thing. They're so good at executing the vast majority of their movies, and bringing along people like me. Whereas this movie did not execute on those. They had some good big ideas, and for me personally, they didn't execute them well. And I hate it because Jessica, I've told you this so many times. I've tried to like it. I wanted to like it so much that I tried to force myself to like it. And every time I do that, I like it less. Like every time I've watched this movie literally 7 times because I really want to
Maybe
like
just
it.
give it a break for a while.
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
Yeah.
I took a break and then I did for his
but
show.
how long was the break?
I mean, it was literally, it came out in 2019. I probably have watched it 1 time since the theater because I watched it 5 times in theater. Like I wanted with Star Wars movies, whether
that
it's
was
like
me with Last Jedi. I watched it so many times in theaters because at first I didn't like it. Like I didn't understand.
I didn't know how I felt about this, so I needed to process. And with Star Wars movies, I just go back to the theater like over and over. And then by the end, I was just like, I have a lot of issues with this movie actually. And I watched it again once it was on video, liked it a little less, watched it again. Like it's probably been a good year and a half. I watched it again just recently. It's as a movie, the conveniences, the dagger, there's so many things about that movie that just feel like it feels hard. It's hard for me to like it. Whenever I watch The Last Jedi, there is so much of the dialogue is some of the best dialogue in the entire saga.
Yeah.
Like every word that Snoke says is so good. And that's not even dialogue we talk about. Every word that he says is so good. And that's just this movie. I felt the opposite. I felt like every story point, it feels so rushed. It feels like they just tried to
rush. I wish it was longer, or I wish they did it in 2 parts like Harry Potter.
Anyway, I could talk about on and on. I don't want to, again, I don't want this to be a Bash the Rise Skywalker episode or anything like that. But again, it really is like, I like the broad strokes. I like a lot of the big ideas, but the execution was lacking for me, unfortunately. But I really do, like we talked about earlier, bringing it back around to what we're actually doing tonight. I can talk about things for an equal amount of time, or maybe a little less amount of time, how much I liked things about this movie. 3PO.
I feel like it would be an equal amount of time if you really were like, this shot, this scene, blah blah blah. Oh yeah, I like this, and then that leads into something. You're like, I like that too.
By the way, I love They Fly Now. I love They Fly Now. I think it's great. I love 3PO in this movie. I love Babu Frick in this movie. I love the Rise Ray moment. I love the dyad stuff. There is so many things in this movie that I genuinely do like or love. But for every one of those, there is a dagger moment where she's holding the dagger up, and it just so happens to be that right angle, and it hasn't moved for years.
See, to me, I find things like that in every Star Wars movie. I'm like, really? And so to me, it's just like another thing that's just like, it's just a part of the story.
There's levels of cheese.
It
you know what's funny though?
Hang up just as much as like that guy, his head not being big enough. Like that to me, it's the same level of doesn't matter to me that much.
Honestly, I think the head is a bigger deal because I exist in this weird space where like I made a video of like I hate the dagger because I do, and people are like, yeah, how could it be in this exact spot? And I'm like, well, I mean, C-3PO did say exact coordinates and what shore to stand on, and like from a distance, it would line up like something that's like mountain size is going to line up. Whether you're here or 3 football fields lengths down there, as long as you're on the same shore, it is going to line up. I think they went to one too many planets, and there was too many.
It's the lead up,
quests.
It's the lead
But
up. And each of those fetch quests had conveniences within. They just so happened to fall down and find that dagger. And that dagger just so
yeah,
happened to have this Sith holocron this Sith language that 3PO can't read unless it's like he can read anything except for this one thing. And then so they have to go on another fetch quest because 3PO can't read it. And then they have to go do this and that, and then they get to this scene and you have to be standing in this specific angle. All those lead up to that moment. I'm just like, oh, so many things that
Do
have to
you
be a
not
specific way.
do you not like treasure hunting movies?
I do.
he hates National Treasure. No, just
I weirdly don't. I weirdly like National Treasure, but touche. Nicolas Cage isn't in The Rise of Skywalker, though, unfortunately.
Oh.
Nicolas Cage is a coin flip from unhinged to quality actor. No,
Yeah, absolutely is.
Yeah, just what I think is interesting though is like these types of conversations where we're talking about what we like.
Mm-hmm.
When we flip it and talk about things we don't like, 90% of the conversation is the exact same for every person you'll ever talk to. And but when we say what we like, all of it is so personal and like this means something to me because of my life journey and I experience this. And that is why these conversations are so important because
Yes.
You can look up critiques of The Last Jedi and it's the same video 1,000 times, but if I tell you why it means something to me, that's unique, that's personal, that's special, and that's why whenever the Cage isn't Babu Frick, hey, like, I don't know, I'm trying to picture how that works. It would be amazing.
And
I
that's
need
what
Nick
helped
Cage as a
me
droid.
come around with The Last Jedi was listening to what other people pulled out and what personally they loved about that movie, because I'm a huge empath. And so, like, if I can empathize with something, I'm going to find something to relate it to some way. Like, it's never going to be the same. Like, I'm never going to say my experience is the same as yours, but I'm just a big feeler. Like, I feel a lot. And so, to hear other people say, this was important to me in this movie, this was positive for me, and I love this hit me a certain way. I'm the type of person that I'm just going to take my mind and I'm going to look at it from their point of view. You know what I mean? And see if that resonates with me or not. And that helped me open up so much to so many different things in different movies that I'm like, I don't know. And then you hear somebody else's point of view because of their story or this. Sometimes it just helps bring things around, you know?
Yeah. And kind of we talked about this a little bit last week too, and I love what y'all are saying completely so much. But then sometimes like we need to be okay with it's okay to not like something. You know?
Absolutely.
Like it's okay.
Yeah.
Like I think there's a lot of pressure whenever especially when you're like when we're on Twitter defending or TikTok defending Jedi or whatever. It's almost like there's a pressure to now defend anything that needs defending or something like that, or there's this kind of connotation now to where if you say that you don't like something on Twitter, oh, you're a hater, like you're toxic because you don't like this or you don't like that. And it's like I've literally seen people say, if you don't like it, then why even say anything about it? I'm like, no, criticism is important. Criticism makes whenever you like something even more valuable. And so,
and it's fine to say, hey, I just don't like this. I can't even tell you why. This. I just don't like it.
Yeah,
my husband, he's 34 years old. He finally is saying, I don't like sports.
There you go.
You know how big of a deal that is for a guy to say, I don't like sports?
But like,
you know what I mean? Like, and he's like, I'm not going to a game. I'm not doing this because everybody
I don't
else
care.
likes it. I don't
Yeah.
like it. And like I've had to defend him so many times to people, which sounds so weird. Like, how could he not? I'm like, I don't know. He doesn't like it. Guess what? It's not the end of the world. It's fine. He's his own
Yeah.
person. It's okay.
Okay, let's be honest. Some sporting events are just better at home on TV. Like I can
even
see
that.
it.
He
There's
just doesn't
cameras.
like sports,
Yeah.
and it's fine.
And it's fun. And so and this is where I'll come back, because like I said, I don't like Rise of Skywalker myself. And so whenever it comes to, I actually don't consider myself to be a sequel defender, because when people don't like something, that's cool. If you tell me though that you know I can't believe Luke would try to murder like a boy who's just having a bad dream, and like I'll be like, well, he wasn't a boy, he wasn't having a bad dream, and he didn't try to murder him, and also he absolutely tried to murder Vader. But like, that's not me I don't consider that defending, because that's literally just what happened in the movie,
Yeah.
Just say it doesn't work for you, or you didn't like it. If there's not like a legitimate reason, don't try to like say something. I don't know. Sometimes I think people just need to say, I just don't like it, and that's fine.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, don't pretend like it's an objectively bad thing when you don't like it. And that's okay. But it's totally fine to be critical of the media. That's what we need to do. And like, if you don't like it, that's awesome. That's fine. And that's why I like these whenever I see someone who has a wildly different ranking than mine, I want to talk to that person.
Yes,
it's not
absolutely.
It's not this is a correct ranking or whatever. Like, no,
Finally,
I want to talk to you because I want to find out why that thing, because I think that thing is trash. I want to know, how do you connect with that thing? And you saying that might be open my eyes to this weird thing I've never experienced before. But I fully agree with you. We don't need to be in this. And I recently did a thing on TikTok, and it was somewhat controversial.
Oh.
But I was talking about Rey Skywalker, which gets a bunch of you mean Rey Palpatine and all these, like, now here's my thing is, we do need to have these. There's a lot of people who have very, very valid criticism, and unfortunately that valid criticism doesn't get heard because it blends in with
ridiculousness.
And so people are like, well, just because I don't like it doesn't mean I'm sexist or doesn't mean I'm racist. And we're like, I agree, that's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there are racist people and there are sexist people, and they're saying the same thing as you, and they're shouting it louder and in much weirder and more aggressive ways. So like, you just kind of blend in with that.
Yep.
We need to cull those people so that we can have real conversations with these people. That's where we need to go.
Absolutely. And and we'll kind of get to the end here after this, but we talked.
Sorry for going on so many tangents.
Honestly, dude, I love this stuff. This is so great. It's hilarious.
Tangents.
Literally last week we did a C-3PO, like our favorite moments of C-3PO. It was just this. It was Anthony Daniels' birthday. I guess it was 2 weeks ago, but so we did that, and like near the end of that conversation, we got on like a 20-minute tangent about literally this same idea, and it's just funny how it keeps coming up. But it's so important for us to talk about this stuff. And I brought up in that conversation how I talked to a person, I don't know if you saw on Twitter, I probably could have worded it better, but I did post a couple of weeks ago this post about that Obi-Wan fan poster that was going around. And the one where, like, I took it as it looks like he's pulling down a Star Destroyer. And I was like, great, now everybody just, all the dude bros just want Obi-Wan to pull down Star Destroyers out of the sky, just like they wanted with Luke in The Last Jedi. And that's basically the gist of what I said. And somebody commented on there, and they said, I can't, like, this is just so ridiculous. Like, I don't like The Last Jedi, so now I'm automatically a dude bro. I was like, no, 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 no. That's not what I said. That's not what I said. I totally respect you. If you don't like The Last Jedi, I totally respect your opinion. You're allowed to have that. I disagree with it, but that's okay. Like, totally cool. And she was like, that's my bad. I misread it because I've been treated really horribly by Last Jedi, by people who love The Last Jedi, just by saying I don't like what they did with Luke and I don't like The Last Jedi. I was like, yeah, I'm really like, I'm sorry about that. Like, that really does suck. I've been treated that way for liking The Last Jedi, so I totally know what you're talking about. We had this
I
really
was
good.
treated that way for liking the prequels.
Yeah, y'all
I
have been on
left
this
the
for a long time.
fandom because I liked the prequels.
Yeah, y'all have been on this train for a long time. But like, we ended up having this great back and forth, and then she followed our Twitter account and I followed her back. And we totally disagree on like what I post so much about. And it's just one of those things where I'm realizing more and more when we're having this dialogue back and forth, it's important to actually have dialogue and not just shout on Twitter, because whenever you do, I've found that when people shout at me on like Twitter shouting, when people like
Just social
aggressively
media in
reply,
general.
what I've been doing lately is I literally just like I reply like, well, no, I mean, yeah, that's very reasonable, but here's blah blah blah, just kind of as mellow and chill as I can, like a person. And I've found that when that happens, they're people too,
Like a bantha.
like a bantha. What I have found that they're people too,
Yeah.
most of them, and they will actually like calm down. It's almost like they're taken aback, and they're just like, "Oh, right, yeah." I mean,
this isn't a fight. Oh,
this isn't a fight. Oh, my bad, man. Totally misunderstood. That
Well-
happens so much. It's crazy. So like, if we could just treat each other like people on social media, this would really, the fandom would be so different in a good way.
Honestly, like there's so many people now that are fighting how toxic Star Wars fans can be.
Mhm.
I see such a potential, and even with people that are huge sequel defenders, like they're very normally positive. Normally, some people can be mean, but to see like a wave of people trying to be not just positive, I'm not talking about like just being toxically positive. I mean like legitimately, let's be positive, but also if you don't like it, it's fine. Let's have a discussion. I feel like in a few years, maybe the Star Wars fandom could look different, and it won't be as divisive and toxic.
That'd be nice.
Well, I mean, I will say we're already light years ahead of where we were with the prequels, because I got prequel hate. Last time I was getting like mean hate was like 2016. That's a long time after the prequels.
Man, come
and
on.
I feel like more people are coming around on the sequels, but more than that, we need to have actual, and this goes back to what I just said about positivity being more personal, because that's what connects people, right? Rather than this negativity. And half of the conversations, like I will make a post about this over here, and then someone will say, and this is the reason why I hate the sequel trilogy, and then go on, and you're like,
you got that out of
bro, like
taking that out of context.
Reed Richards couldn't make that much of a reach. You know what I mean? Like, but what's happening is they had a conversation with someone else over here, and they're continuing it with me. I don't know what you said to them. Like, don't bring that to me. Like, you talk to me as a person. We are, if we can realize we're not constructs. We're all individual people, and even people who like the same things will have different views on those same things.
And sometimes not liking something is very personal. I'm not going to change, like, for some people that really still dislike The Last Jedi, and you get the people that are like, that's not my Luke, blah, blah, blah. But take those people out of it. And the people who genuinely connected to Luke differently, I can't tell you you're wrong for that. You know what I mean? Like, I see it one way because I connect to the character a different way than you do. I can't say that you're wrong for saying I don't like how this happened because I connected to his character differently because of me and what where I was as a kid or when I saw him or whatever. Like,
Mhm.
I can't tell you that you're wrong because that is personal. Like, we just need to be more kind with each other when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And look up what objective actually means. You might surprise you.
Yeah. Yeah, that too.
Well, it's amazing how many times I've been how many times I've been told as a Luke Skywalker fan from age 9, age 8 or 9 here. Luke Skywalker is my guy like forever and always. How many times I've been told, "Well, you can feel that way if you want, but you're objectively wrong about Luke. This Luke is objectively not the Luke of the original trilogy. You can't even make an argument." I'm like, "Oh, you can't, huh?" Okay, gotcha. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It really is ridiculous. And by the way, I can make an argument, and I will, but not
And
right
I
now.
will.
Not right now.
Although I do have one final message for all the people who like will watch this stuff, watch every episode of the Book of Boba Fett and hate every single episode. And to those people, I gotta say thank you. It's not my favorite show, but I
Me
enjoy
neither.
that it exists, and I enjoy getting more stuff. And if you hate everything that's coming out of Disney, but you still support it by watching it, that tells them to make more of it. And I thank you.
Joke's on you.
But we're the ones just consuming, right? It's fine.
Yeah. No,
You're not a fan,
yeah,
you're
I
a
appreciate
consumer.
it.
What are you?
All right, guys. This is a good place to end. This has been so much fun. Whoa, I'm knocking my mic over here. This has been so much fun. Choco, dude, thanks so much for joining. We will have you back on again at some point. Maybe you want to come on, talk some Kenobi whenever it's going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who
Want to?
doesn't want to talk about Kenobi?
We'll have you back on the show. Thanks so much for coming on. Tell the people that are listening to the podcast what you got going on and where they can find you.
Yeah, once again, I am Darth Choco. On TikTok is where I make a lot of my content, and I am trying to build up YouTube, Darth Choco on YouTube as well. So please stop by, give me a follow. I, Darth Choco 7 on Twitter. I don't understand social media, to be honest. If I'm not making content, I don't understand it. But sometimes I get spicy on Twitter. So yeah, go ahead and follow me there. I have the High Ground podcast. That's my podcast where I have different people on. And that's every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time that we go live. But you can find it wherever pods are cast. And I have a secondary podcast with my good buddy Element 7, which is called Diet in the Force, and that's Saturdays at 5 p.m. on his YouTube channel, which is just look up Element 7.
Awesome. I will do that. And guys, if you could go follow us at certain_POV pod on Twitter, on Instagram. Jess runs the Instagram. She's doing a lot of stuff over there now. And that is no, you are. And that is including, by the way, you just posted a reel of us all doing a Wookiee a Wookiee yell or whatever.
I'm pretty proud of that. And I sent the video to my group chat of friends, and they went, "Why do none of y'all sound like Chewbacca?" And I said, "Because we all suck."
I can't even. I can't even like Curry and Drew. No, I'm sorry. Curry, Drew, and Josh were at least trying, but wait, who didn't try? I feel like someone else. Was it Drew? I know, for me, I've tried before.
Drew
and so
was laughing too much.
I just went, oh! I can't do it.
I didn't really fully try because I knew I could not do it.
Same thing. It was
I need to. I need to practice because I may or may not be working on a Black Chrysanthemum cosplay. We'll see.
Dude, that's amazing.
Now, I know it won't be done before Celebration, but if I can get the head done, then
That's
I'll just wear a
enough.
suit and I'll be a classy chrysanthemum, you know?
Yeah.
I love it.
That's
But
amazing.
yeah, I'm going to be working on that Wookiee Roy.
Yes.
Yeah, well, we failed. You can watch our
We
reel
did.
and see what not to do.
Yes, and that is at Certain Point of View Pod on Instagram, and join our Facebook discussion group. It's really fun over there. Pretty much the vibe of this podcast, but just in Facebook form. So it's really fun, a good positive group to be a part of if you're looking for a chill Star Wars group that generally, like, if you have strong opinions about something and you feel very strongly about something, but you respect other people's opinions, you're good. That's what the group is for. So, and please subscribe to the podcast and leave us a rating and review. It really helps us out, guys. Choco, again, thank you so much for coming on tonight. And guys, until next time, may the Force be with you always.
Force be with you.